Hola, boa noite. Carl Munson here with the Portugal show from expatsportugal.com. It is great to be here. And we've an interesting show for you. I hope you'll agree tonight. We are looking at where to live in Portugal. It's the big question. So where to live in Portugal. We'll also be taking a brief look at a fascinating news article, namely that Portugal has welcomed more than 120,000 foreigners who've become Portuguese in 2019, and we'll be looking at that story. And before we go anywhere near those two items, obviously the big one, where to live in Portugal, so do stay tuned for that. And expats are already here. I'm sure you want to have your say about where you think people should come. We will be reading through an article from expatsportugal.com of the name Where to Live in Portugal. But before we go there, answering that big question, we will be welcoming to the screen tonight Celine Bont, who I saw an article, well, I think maybe a social media post from you, Celine, recently, talking about in this pandemic time how we can help support local businesses. So good evening to you. How are you this evening? And where are you in Portugal?
Good evening, everybody. I live in Lisbon. I'm in Estrela, which is one of the nice neighborhoods of Lisbon. And I arrived, we really love the neighborhood. I arrived less than 1 year ago here, and I really love the city. I don't know much Portugal, but for me, it's the best part to be.
You picked a really good place, and I'm sure you before we go, maybe you could say a little bit more about Estrela to the people who are assembling tonight to find out where ultimately the best place to live in Portugal is. Sean Hyder is here already, waving and saying, oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Shauna Hyder is here, waving and saying hi tonight. And Lauren, super excited about this topic. They want to come soon, Lauren and Andrew, and it's an hola boa noite from them. But before we talk about that, which we'll do after we've talked to you, Celine, and had a look at this welcoming of 120,000 foreigners to Portugal in 2019. I was very interested, and it's very timely that you want to help support local businesses. So what inspired you to do that? What's on your mind with this particular project? Can you tell us more?
Yes. As I said, I arrived a few months ago, so I'm really new in the city, but like everybody sees it every day, how it's hard in those times for all the local shops in every neighborhood, not just in mine and not just in our city. I mean, not like everywhere in the world. And I really, I feel like there's something missing. Like, I know that a lot of initiatives are made right now, and it's really good. I really like seeing that people trying to help the economy here, and especially the very small shops, the stores, because they're really, some of them are really desperate, some are closing. And at the end of my street, actually, a few months ago, a very small shop closed, and the man who, like the owner of the shop, he was, I think, more than 70 years old, and he has been here in the neighborhood all his life. Like he really put a note one day saying, well, thank you for those amazing 70 years here. And I really felt, even if it's not my country, I just arrived, I really feel that it's, I don't know, it's hard. And I know we all feel it. We see it everywhere.
Yeah. Did you say 70 years?
Yeah, I mean, he was really old and really nice guy. We love to go there to buy food with my daughter. And the day he closed, I was like, oh my God, I couldn't say him goodbye. And I don't know, we know why he left, but we couldn't help, we couldn't do anything. And when they see that they're closing, it's too late. So indeed, I really struggled trying to find a way to do something, and talking with them. They are really willing, like they need us. So, and I know what they need. What is hard here is the technology part, you know, like the website. They don't always have website, those shops. So it's what I do. I mean, I have been working in design and websites and communications and marketing. And I would like to help. I think that they need maybe a platform or something. So we are trying to look for ways to help them the most we can.
Okay, and as I think you were saying to me earlier on, this is at a very early stage, isn't it? And you know, it's all about developing the idea at the moment rather than something that's fully formed and being rolled out at the moment. So, how can we help? How can this community help in the face of this heartbreaking scenario? Because that's what it is, isn't it? And this is not going to get any better anytime soon. And I'm not meaning to be negative or a doom monger, but the way this appears to be working, we're into the second lockdown now, and the effects of this are obviously felt sometime in the future. You don't get to see immediately, do you, what the effect's going to be? But I think you don't have to exactly be a top class economist or Einstein to know that the knock-on effects are going to be pretty severe and some help is needed. So what's on your mind? How do you think people might be able to help, and how might we help as a community of people here?
I think there are many ways to help, and people are already doing some, but I know that especially in the expatriates community, we don't always know the city very well. So we have a few shops we know, but we don't know all of them. Sometimes we need specific things, and we don't have addresses. And like a lot of people, we choose in bigger platforms to, for example, to buy products or especially I'm interested in the gift sending. Like when you have to send gifts, especially in this time where we're thinking of Christmas, people are gonna buy a lot online, and like it's a topic everywhere, but I see so many beautiful shops. They have products made, handmade, really nice, that could be nice gifts. And I think that we don't need to buy online. Like but people don't know all the stores. So I would like to I don't know, to help them to promote their products and also to have them delivered to people's house. So that's the idea. Now I want to know if people would be willing to participate in this idea and try to buy local, especially for gifts, but for everything. I mean, if they're interested in the topic, like to participate at the same time and to do something good for the economy, but also to people they want to send a gift to. So we are looking for feedback from people, especially expatriates, but it can be from different countries. The idea is to talk to them and try to understand how it would be good or easier for them to send gifts to their loved ones. Because when I lived in Canada, I've been living far from my family for 11 years, and I always had this problem. I don't know how to send them gifts. I mean, it's always complicated, and for me at least, I know a bit how to buy online, but my parents, I mean, they can't buy things online. It's all the time complicated, so they try to do it, but we're trying to find a way to make it easier to buy online and have the gifts sent to the people. So I would need the feedback of expatriates on how they deal with that, how they send the gifts. Do they use the big platforms? Would they do differently if there were a better way to do it, or like a responsible way, to do it?
Fantastic. And we've already got an offer of help. Celine, my fiance and I both work as software engineers and would love to help with this initiative. How about that? They're not even here in Portugal yet, but they would love to help. They're over there in North Carolina in the United States. I've put your website address up as well, celinebont.ca. So people can start to get in touch. I would love it if you would join our forum, because I think that'll be a great place. The expatsportugal.com forum has we're over 7,000 in our community there. So I think you will get some expat feedback there. So that's how everyone can join us.
Because the website is more about design, like what I did when I was in Canada before. Yeah. So it doesn't talk about the project, but I would be very happy to talk with them through the chat you have or Facebook or everything.
Yeah, I think it's so important.
Sorry?
I think it's so important. I mean, now is the time for us to get busy on this, because Jeff Bezos, I think, has made enough from this pandemic and the convenience of buying from him. And really, I mean, realistically, we have to make something as easy as that, don't we? The reason I think people use Amazon so freely and why it's such a massive success, with all due respect to Jeff, he's got a great idea. But the problem with that, of course, is that it does have a knock-on effect, perhaps, of putting other smaller businesses out of business. because they've got the added problem of the pandemic challenge at the moment. And, you know, they live on a knife's edge, and they probably were before the pandemic. And this might have been the final thing to push them over the edge. So I think we need to come to their aid as an expat community. I think especially we have a passion, don't we? We wouldn't have moved to Portugal in the first place if we didn't love the life and the culture here. So I think it's the least we can do to help preserve it. So I really, it resonated when you posted your post that I saw, Celine, and I'm right with you, shoulder to shoulder on this. Let's see what we can do. Eric J in the States, consistent community support for local stores, shops, restaurants, etc., is the only chance they have to survive long term. I think that's the truth. I think that's the truth, Eric. And we do need to challenge our ideas of convenience. And also, I think this software platform that you're proposing, that Lauren and Andrew might help you with, it does need to be easy, doesn't it? It does need to be convenient. And we need to, in many ways, needs to compete with Amazon. But it could be better because it has the added cachet or attraction of supporting the very culture we love, right?
Yeah, and when you say we can help them, I mean, it's not just helping them, because the ways we have to do it today, Amazon or any other way, people are not really happy with the way we do that. So I'm sure that we can find another way. When I talked to people already, a few people, and they told me, I love sending gifts or offering gifts to people, but it's so painful, it's hard, it's complicated, it's frustrating. And I'm like, that's not the point. It should be nice to send a gift to someone you love. And it should be easier. And if it can help the local shops, and if it can be more personalized, you know, and more interesting in the offer of the products you can have, there are amazing things that they are selling in the shops just in my neighborhood. Like when I walk, I'm so impressed. Like, it's really art, it's really nice, it's handmade, and I think there are a lot of beautiful gifts that we could just find at the end of the street. So
yeah, and Portugal is still a country of makers, isn't it? I live, my closest big town city is Coimbra, and there are some incredible handmade items, craft items that really celebrate, you know, the craft tradition and industrial tradition actually of Portugal. So I'll happily be a representative for this project in Coimbra. There's a particular brand, I think it's called Truja, a fabulous shop there, and you know, anything we can do to help with this, and also those tiny ones. I guess we need the ambassadors and advocates, don't we, of the tiny one-off shops to step forward and say, look, over here, this place needs a little bit of support and a bit of a spotlight. Let's get them involved. So, Celine, please do keep us in touch with what's going on. Do connect with our community, and let's see what we can do. Anything else finally before I'll let you go that you want to say about the project?
No, I hope everyone is safe and will have a nice Christmas this year and connected in a way with the ones they love.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you. Muito prazer.
Sorry?
Muito prazer. That's my bad Portuguese. I'm saying pleased to have met you.
Same for me.
All right. Okay, ciao, ciao. Thank you so much. And do keep us in
for your time.
Ciao, ciao, ciao. Boa noite. Okay, so there goes Celine. We move on now. I'll keep you informed with Celine's project as much as she keeps me informed, but I think we should see some more information about that over there on expatsportugal.com. A few good nights coming in. Safiro is here. 10 out of 10 for attendance, Safiro. And I'm sure you're going to be a great asset to us tonight when we address this big question, where to live in Portugal. And Eric J said earlier on, Hola, boa noite, Celine and Carl, thanks for sharing Lady J's story this morning. Congrats to her. Wasn't that a lovely, heartwarming story about how cool the authorities are over there in Caldas da Rainha? Also, Steve Merwin. Hiya, Steve. Great to have you here tonight. I'm sure you'll be interested in the main topic. Hola, boa noite, Celine and Carl from Steve there. And that lovely offer from Lauren. Celine, my fiance, and I both work as software engineers. So that's pretty cool. I imagine Celine will be reaching out to you. Consistent community support. Yeah, this is what Eric was saying earlier on. Consistent community support for local shops and stores and restaurants, of course, is what's needed, and the cafes. Let's get out there. Let's remember them. Let's keep them in business because we'll miss them when they're gone. I'm biased regarding where to live, says Safira. I think he's going to point us towards the north of Portugal. So before we go into that, before we go into where to live in Portugal, actually, if you want to read along with me a little bit later on, this is the article that I'll be sharing that I'll be using as my prompt, really. This is Expats Portugal, and the article is basically where-to-live-in-Portugal, expatsportugal.com/ and then all of that, where to live in Portugal. So you can have a quick look at that now if you wish, and we will certainly be coming back to that after I've told you about the lucky foreigners who've made their home here in Portugal, a Portugal news item. Let me just bring that up onto the screen for you. I see Celine is still in our green room, watching the show from the green room. Celine, you don't have to stick around, but you're very welcome if you want to. You won't crash the show if you leave, or maybe you don't know how to, and you're stuck there, a prisoner in our green room. But I'll check in with you a bit later on and see how you're doing. So more than 120,000 foreigners become Portuguese. Okay, this is from the Portugal News Online, one of the two principal English language news sources over here in Portugal that you might want to keep an eye on if you've not arrived here yet. And isn't it weird how these ads come up? This gives you a little look into my psyche, basically, doesn't it? The ads that come up on this version of, or this rendition of the Portugal News, is to do with my previous searches. That could be embarrassing, but I can assure you it won't be. Maybe a little odd, but not embarrassing. So yes, 120,000 foreigners, a little over 120,000 in fact, were granted Portuguese citizenship in 2019. Brazilians top the list of naturalizations, followed by Cape Verde and the Ukraine, interestingly. The latest number brings the number of foreigners who have become Portuguese to over 500,000 in the space of the past 5 years. It's a short article. That's all we have to say about that, as Forrest Gump would say. But isn't that interesting? In 5 years, 500,000 people have become Portuguese. That's extraordinary, and I think that's a real compliment to the Portuguese people. And I'm sure that won't be without its challenges as well. But that's quite a figure to marvel over, in my view. So yes, very interesting. 500,000 with a standing population of around 10 million, 2 million in, of course, in the Portuguese diaspora. And the joke, of course, I wonder if Sapphira will find this amusing. The best joke I heard about the sort of Portuguese population in diaspora is the third largest city. Third largest Portuguese city is, of course, Paris. To show you how, I mean, it's amazing. This is Portuguese history, how people went all around the world. And I heard from did I mention I'd been speaking to the British ambassador last week? He reckoned there were 400,000 Portuguese people in the UK, which is also an extraordinary number and a good reflection of our globalized world. And actually, to me, it also speaks of how we actually do get along very well. And, you know, when you see the gloom and doom in the news of racial tensions, I know it happens, but it is a minority thing. And clearly we are getting along nicely, thank you, us human beings all over the world, very nicely. And it's just the rotten eggs, isn't it, that make all the noise that get reported on, giving us a skewed view, I think, of how awesome and wonderful and how easily we can get along, with each other in this world. So I think it's worth bearing that in mind. Larry Michael simply says, good. Tonight, so I'm happy with that, Larry. Or maybe that's something to do with the content that's coming up. Safiro, well, we still have room. You see, there's a Portuguese person talking like, okay, enough now. Let's build a wall. No, not at all. We still have room for more. That's a beautiful sentiment. Thank you, Safiro, for that. So, the big question: where to move to in Portugal? And I'm going to share that article again on the screen with you now. Let's have a look at it. Let's bring it up. Safira, where are you going to say, or are you going to keep us waiting with your view on this? I do want any expats who are already here to shout out for their locality and tell us where they think is favorite. But of course, there isn't a particular best place to move in Portugal, is there? Because otherwise everyone would probably already be there and it'd be a massive concentration of people. It does depend on your own personal needs. So that would help me a great deal, actually, if people want to put in an idea. No personal information or banking details or PIN codes, please, but a little bit of an idea, of what your expected lifestyle is, what your situation is. Are you a big family, or you're a single person? Are you a couple? Do you want to be in the city? Do you want to be in the country? And that big question always, okay, this is a key consideration. Excuse me if you've heard this before, but it is really important. Do you want to spend your time warming up, or do you want to spend your time cooling down generally throughout the year? That is a key determinant. Lydia is here tonight. Good evening to Lydia. Hello, Lydia. How are you this evening? And what might your interest be in Portugal? And some prompts for me. This is fantastic. Thank you, Sherry. We were looking to move to Portugal in 2022. The pandemic restrictions have given us pause. It seems the European restrictions have been more severe than the US. What is your perspective? Hopefully we'll be done with all this by then. I certainly hope so, by 2022. I, like you, would want this to be a dim and distant memory, Sherry. Wherever you are in the world, let us know. My perspective on that, as in, does Europe seem to be more severe than the US? Excuse me. I mean, I think the problem is the sort of point blank refusal. You know, that you are not allowed to come to Portugal unless you have an emergency or a family connection. So no tourism is allowed. Although some people, I think, are beginning to interpret this idea of important business as in finding a home. That's a bit more than tourism, isn't it? So I think some people might be arguing that point soon. I think that's the main problem, in terms of how we might be perceived from on the other side of the Atlantic. There is that block, that big block, that virtual wall, like you can't come at the moment. It is the big problem across Europe. I don't get that. I mean, the lockdowns come and go, don't they? So at the moment, it's a difficult relationship between my native UK and Portugal. But I'm not getting that, Sherry, in perhaps the same way as you're seeing it. That said, we have gone into in the municipality where I live today, as of 1 minute past midnight this morning, we've gone into curfew and lockdowns in about 40 minutes. I won't be allowed out of my home or my compound, as it were, until 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. So things are getting a bit serious. But having said that, when I was out and about on official business earlier on today, atmosphere was great. It wasn't somber. People were going about their important business, and the Portugal I know and love was evident. So I hope that helps in some way there with you, Sherry. As Safiro, Portuguese man, he is our resident Portuguese man, or fast becoming that anyway. Lol. Porto district, obviously the biased part, but south of the Rio Tejo in Alentejo looks to be the more desired place for those looking for a quiet place to enjoy retirement. Now, I think what Safira is referring to there is being north of the Algarve, but south of Lisbon in the wonderful Alentejo. Very sparsely populated, hence him referring to it as a quiet place to enjoy retirement. So thank you so far, Safira. Keep it coming. I'm all about cooling down, says LH. Okay, so it's going to be further south for you then, Algarve and Alentejo, and of course central Portugal, Tomar, where the temperatures can get into the 40s. That's centigrade, by the way. So yes, and Castelo Branco, all very warm and hot, but obviously you don't want to be on the northern coast or the central coast where it can be a little bit windy and chilly, and not Aveiro either. I'm guessing just from those 5 words you've given me there, LH. Keep it coming, everybody, on your prompts, and help me here with discussing this whole concept of where to move in Portugal. The advantages of picking up the district of Porto. Yes, Porto. I mean, there's a great sibling rivalry between Lisbon and Porto. Safiro, would you care, as a man of the north, to tell us why Porto is better than Lisbon? This should be interesting. Eric J, without having visited any of them yet, my wife and I have targeted Coimbra, Lisbon and Porto. Good spread of bets there. Moderate temperatures, not planning on having a car. So moderate temperatures, the coolest of those really being Porto, I would say. Lisbon can get very hot in the summertime. Coimbra somewhere in the middle there. And I do have a fond. I'm biased too, like Safaro. I am very biased, and I'm falling in love each time I go even more to Coimbra. Aurora, Illinois, suburban Chicago is where Sherry's from. Thank you for giving us that bit of info. It's really nice to know where people are from. I'd like to be in the center of all locations, easy to get to sea, mountains, countryside. Where would this be? Not major city, though. Oh, I say, Shunaz. Interesting. I'll probably come back to that, and we'll probably get a little bit more info as we read through the article. But I would say, yes, central, going. If you want mountains, Serra da Estrela, I would say around Coimbra. So not in the city. You don't want a major city, although cities are relative, aren't they? Coimbra is a Portuguese city, but compared to, Chicago or London or somewhere like that, it's not huge. So that, again, is relative and relevant to your search. But I'm thinking, yeah, central. My first thought that comes to mind, it's like doing a psychic reading, this, isn't it? My first thought that comes to mind, easy to get to the sea, okay. Mountains, countryside, where would this be? You could actually be looking at, it depends whether you want hilly or mountainous, because you could be looking actually at Setúbal and northern Alentejo to get to the sea, lovely countryside, and some hilly areas as you go to the Arabada National Park, for example. But then if you come a bit further north, you could be around the area that would put you between Figueira da Foz for the sea and then the Serra da Estrela. So central Portugal, I'm thinking. So far, anyway, Shunaz, and I'm open to the input of others on this, but that's a good one. Thank you for that, Shunaz. I'm giving Portugal serious consideration for retirement living, says Lydia, and so you should, Lydia. We've been looking at Porto. We know it rains a lot, but we're okay with the more mildish weather. It's a cool city. Safira will tell you that. A very cool city. I know you're a younger couple, and I'm pretty sure you'll like the vibe there in Porto. Very cool city. Well, the workforce of the country is mostly located here in Porto. Also, people still have that special warmth and say what they think without any filters, which will come, I think, as a welcome thing for many American people as well, actually, rather than it's all this English fannying about and not saying what you mean and so on. Sherry says, love city life, sea views and sun. Yeah, I'm thinking, Lisbon, really, for you then, Sherry. You really should look at Lisbon because, the capital, you can get to the sea, you can get to the Atlantic coast, most amazing beaches, not far at all from the city centre in Lisbon. And of course, the sun. You'll have seen the beautiful blue skies of Lisbon. And Xander, hello, Xander, good evening to you. I'm still trying to get more details on the microclimate of Ponto de Lima. You see how specialist we get here? I think we're going to have to put you in touch with the mayor there, aren't we, Xander? Safiro, we will get to this article, I promise you. Plenty of locations to visit, for example, Guimarães, 30 miles drive. I was gonna wonder why a Portuguese man is giving us miles there instead of kilometers. But anyway, not a massive difference there. Yes, the birthplace of Portugal, Guimarães, up in the north there, stone's throw, pretty much. And actually, stone's throw. The proximity of things to Americans, driving 2 and 3 hours to get somewhere is really no biggie, is it? Drive 2 or 3 hours in Portugal, and you're pretty much, if you're in the center, you're pretty much right up there in the north or right down there in the south. It's not a massive country, yet in this tiny footprint packs an incredibly diverse punch. Okay, so if you're used to driving long distances, this is not going to be a problem for you. There's good toll roads, and you'll be able to explore and get around all over the place here in Portugal if you think nothing of jumping in the car for 2 or 3 hours. As we will just be entering retirement age, in inverted commas, yes, I wonder, is that Silicon Valley retirement of about 30 or, like 50, north of 50, Eric? Is healthcare better or worse in any particular area? I would say to that, obviously, the bigger the city, the more hospitals you're going to have. But even in like Tamar, Coimbra, you've got great hospitals. And the health service is good in Eric. The health service is good in Portugal, Eric. And you will be shocked and surprised, I think, by how is the word cost effective when it comes to health? What good value it is. Let's say that, what good value it is. I'm interested in rivers, more interested in rivers than the ocean. And of course, yes, Xander, Portugal has the most incredible river beaches. The rivers here are amazing. The river beaches are fantastic too. Another of Portugal's well-kept secrets. Guimarães, 30 minutes, of course, nothing to do with distance, but time, 30 minutes north of Porto there, a 30-minute drive. And Eric, people are very forthcoming, 58, so getting into the 60s for Portugal. It's a good plan, Eric. It's a very good plan indeed. So let's have a look at this article. Let's go deeper into it. Lifestyle, from our lifestyle section in our expatsportugal.com articles here. Let's have a look at not why. Look at all of these visas and permits, Portuguese citizenship, why I live in Portugal, where to buy a property in the Algarve, pet relocation to Portugal. Lots of info for you here. I'm not going to go into all of this tonight, obviously. Residency visa process for Americans. And of course, we've got lots of webinars about that on our YouTube channel. But this is the one we want to look at. Where to live, seaside, rural, or historic. Where to live in Portugal. Probably one of the most common questions asked of expats and immigrants who have made the move to Portugal is where they live and why they chose this location. Portugal offers every lifestyle possible, whether it is living in a bustling big city, a beachside retreat, a quaint rural village, or secluded off-grid country living. Where you choose to live depends on many factors, including what you expect from your new life in Portugal. So yes, in case anybody just wanted a city and that was it, I'm sorry. It will depend a lot on your particular needs. And these are the sort of questions you might want to ask yourself, okay? You don't have to get a pen and paper. It's all here on this article here at expatsportugal.com. Do I want to be amongst an expat community or prefer to live amongst the Portuguese locals? I like a bit of balance with that myself. Will I need to find employment? Are you coming here on a D7 or are you coming here on an entrepreneurial visa, which we'll be looking at very soon on our webinars? Do I want to be close to the sea or do I want to be inland? What kind of climate do I prefer? Or in Xander's case, what kind of microclimate do I prefer? Will I need access to public transport? Will I need international schools for the kids? And what is my budget to buy or rent a house? And look, we've got lots of information to look into here. But before we go anywhere there, I need to have a sip of coffee. So will you please just talk quietly among yourselves, loudly if you like. Just talk among yourselves for a moment as I have a sip of Portuguese coffee. And thank you for bearing with me with that. When I finish my coffee, I may well be trying this. Look at this beautiful thing here. Let me just take that off the screen so you get a good shot of this. Pedra Cancela. This is a Dow wine. I'm a Taoist tonight, right? This is a Seleção do Enologio, and it is a decanter favorite. And it started snowing here in Portugal. No, it hasn't really started snowing. It's just my weird green screen is playing up again. But this is a 2019 decanter choice. So I may well get around, as we're talking about Portugal, to trying this beautiful wine from the Dow region. What do you think, Safiro? Good choice? The Pedra Cancela. Have a little sip of that tonight. Join us on a Thursday night at 9 o'clock in the Good Morning Portugal Wine Club, where we're on a journey, a virtual journey around Portugal, trying wines. And this is part of my research, by the way. I'm not a terrible drunk. I'm researching for the wine club. I promise. Better than Starbucks for sure. That could be a little bit contentious. Will you Americans miss Starbucks? There aren't many of them here in Portugal. Probably no need, in fact, unless you want, pumpkin spice or something as we get closer to Christmas. But yeah, Portuguese coffee is awesome, and usually around €1 for a great cup of coffee here in Portugal. So back to the article then. Let's have a look what's being said here. Do excuse me. The areas with the highest density of expats and immigrants can be found in Cascais, Lisbon, Lagos, Tavira, and Coimbra, Porto, Caldas da Rainha, what we mentioned before, Braga, and Tomar, to name just a few. So especially in Cascais. Cascais is a very popular expat and immigrant destination. There's a UN base facility there, I think. So quite a lot of sort of military type people around there as well. Lisbon, obviously, as you'd expect. Down there in the south, Lagos and Tavira, a lot of expats ending up down there. And, of course, you imagine that as well in the big cities of Coimbra. Caldas da Rainha is interesting. That is near the Silver Coast of Portugal, near the big surfing place that you may well be aware of as well, Nazaré. Up there in Braga in the north. Again, it's because these are the bigger cities. And I think a lot of people are ending up there for work in their professional life as well. But those are some of the names to look out for if you do want to be close to expats and perhaps not if you don't. It is with that. I'm interested in your views on that, actually. Let's do a quick poll in the comments. So no, I do not want to be with other expats. I've come to get away from everything, including expats. I want to be with Portuguese people. Or do you think, it'll be a nice support network for you? Let me know. It is without a doubt You should travel to Portugal and explore different areas of the country before making your decision. Agreed. Network with others who have already made the move and find out what they like and dislike about where they live. And of course, you can do that on our forum. The mainland of Portugal is divided into 5 regions. Porto in the north first. And we'll see. Safiro, who's with us tonight, will tell us if he agrees or disagrees with the information presented here. The most populated region with 35% of the total population there in Porto in the north, probably the most original region of Portugal. This could upset some other Portuguese people tuned in. Plenty of culture, interesting historical sites, and very scenic. 100 kilometers of great beaches, mountainous inland, and several natural parks. How wonderful! Isn't that great? The major cities in the Porto in the north, obviously Porto, second largest city in Portugal. Braga, Viana do Castelo, Villarreal, and Bragança, and these are where you'll find the history and culture, which probably amounts to that claim there. Probably the most original region of Portugal. I don't think that means sort of original as in, quirky and original, as in, the origins of Portugal itself are there. Good road infrastructure and flights to from many other countries from Porto Airport. It's a fantastic airport, not too big, but still serving, a good international infrastructure there at the best of times, of course. And apart from Porto, property prices are pretty competitive. And something that's not mentioned there, and something we have commented upon previously on the Portugal show here, is the Costa Verde. I've got to stick this on the Portugal 100 list. Incidentally, yes, over on the forum, I've started something called the Portugal 100 list, which I expect to grow to Portugal 1000 and even 10,000. These are the things you should do, visit, and experience in Portugal, one of them being the Costa Verde. Further north of Porto, the Atlantic coast, of course, and it is stunning. A little bit windy, but stunning on a beautiful day. Not as hot, obviously, as the Algarve down south, and really underrepresented, I think, in tourism guides to Portugal, but well worth a visit. Even if you don't end up living there, it's a beautiful part of Portugal. Average temperatures in Porto, January, minimum of 6, a maximum of 14. In the summer there, as you can see, minimum 15 and a maximum of 25. Really, only as high as that? I think you get a few days beyond that as well. And sunny days, that's not bad, is it? 255 a year. One of the landlords whose houses I stayed in said about Portugal, 300 days of sunshine a year. That may be more of a Lisbon thing than a Porto thing, as we are seeing there. And it might not be entirely true. It's an aspirational thing, but still, the hit rate of sunny days. I mean, that's not bad, is it? 255 a year. We are, of course, entering into the colder and rainier part of the year right now. But that's still pretty awesome, isn't it? And if you're a person who likes seasons, of course, and variation, this is going to suit you. So let's go to central Portugal now. There, a lovely picture of my beloved Coimbra. 22% of the total population, not just in Coimbra, but in central Portugal. The scenery is similar to northern Portugal, although 290 kilometers of great beaches. And that will be taking in Aveiro, I would say, just in, and Mira, a little beach that we've discovered not far from us, about 20 kilometers from where we live. And then, of course, down to the Silver Coast, Figueira de Foz, San Martino de Porto, Peniche, Nazaré. Those parts of Portugal's beaches, the 290 kilometers thereof. Plenty of culture, interesting historical sites, and very scenic. And as you go east, you are going to be going to Viseu, Guarda, and Castelo Branco. And then further south, you've got Leiria and Santarém. Up further north, and you do have Aveiro. So that is included just in the north of central Portugal. Good road infrastructure, certainly. Good toll roads, and of course some good old-fashioned haulage routes. I live very close to the road called the IC2, which is absolutely full of Portuguese character, and parts of it, of course, are the Caminho, where people are making the pilgrimage to Fatima. Okay, so yeah, great road infrastructure and some really fascinating roads. If you get off the tolls, you will go onto the old haulage routes where the truckers still use them, I think, to avoid the cost of the tolls. And so there are fantastic trucker cafes, come off the main road and you go into really quiet, beautiful villages. Really amazing. So temperatures, let's have a look at those. Oh, before we go there, property prices are low, excluding Coimbra. So some great bargains as you go east as well. A lot of the kind of more off-gridding types of expats, immigrants coming into Portugal, the off-gridders, the self-sufficiency types, preppers possibly are going towards Castelo Branco area. Okay, some down south in the Algarve for sure, but really high concentrations just east of Coimbra and then further east as you head towards the Spanish border. A lot of people enjoying very kind of off-grid situations, low population density, and really being able to get away from it all. Okay, average temperatures in Coimbra, in central Portugal, capital of central Portugal, I guess. January, minimum of 5, maximum of 14. And of course, as you go out of town, you are going to get down to 0, especially as you get closer to the mountainous and the hilly areas. But maximum of 14 there, even in January. August, minimum of 14 degrees and maximum of 25. But it's going to peak well into the 30s in Coimbra. I think these are very conservative estimates of temperature. Sunny days, similar to the Porto, 254. That's a pretty good hit rate again, isn't it, of sunny days. Even to, when was I in Coimbra? Yesterday. It was overcast, but still beautiful, absolutely beautiful, because the weather, that's the other thing about Portuguese weather. I know Frank Sinatra made a joke about British weather. You know, if you don't like the British weather, just wait 5 minutes. Well, a similar thing happens in Portugal. You know, you'll wake up in the morning and there'll be a mist in the valley, and that'll burn off to a beautiful, bright blue Portuguese azul sky. And things can change from what looks like a sort of really depressing, dim and dark day at the beginning to like a glorious summer's day. And you can really get a change of weather conditions within, you know, like Frank Sinatra says, you know, within an hour, certainly in Portugal. Let's go further south now. Let's go to the capital and the Tagus Valley. 28% of the total population there, 150 kilometers of beaches, several World Heritage sites and natural parks, loads of culture, interesting historical sites, and very scenic. Major cities, obviously, Lisbon, Lisboa, and Setúbal. Excellent road and rail infrastructure and worldwide destinations served from Lisbon Airport, as you would expect. Lisbon and the surrounding areas have a great diversity of restaurants, shopping, and entertainment venues. This is the most expensive area to live, with some of the highest property prices in Portugal. Again, as you would expect, being within close proximity of the capital. January, minimum of 8, maximum of 13. August, minimum of 17 and a maximum of 26. These, like I said, these I'm gonna take issue, I think, with this, and I'm gonna ask for a recount. Oops, don't go there. Minimum 17 degrees centigrade, a maximum of 26. It gets a lot warmer than that in Lisbon. Sunny days. There you go. There you go. Nearly 300, 299 sunny days out of your 365. That can't be bad, can it? Amazing, beautiful blue skies. Look at that picture of the Lisbon and Tagus Valley there. Amazing. Right, let me just go back, see if there's any comments I need to address on the. Oh yes, there are. Hello everybody, thank you so much. Yes, agreed. Going back to the Starbucks comment, yeah, because, says Safaro, because we know how coffee should taste and be served like. Not a novelty thing, right? Straightforward, concentrated coffee that goes straight to the heart of things, espresso style, maybe with 1 or 2 sugars, Safaro, and often drunk standing up in the cafe, at the bar. Get your coffee and go. Beautiful. Maybe a little pastel de nata to go with it sometimes. Carl, what was the name of the neighborhood you mentioned in Lisbon a while back? I believe you said it was across the river. What did you find appealing about living there? Steve, that would be Aroeira. Aroeira, it was a quirk of fate for us. We were looking for somewhere to live because the company I was working for at the time was headquartered in Lisbon. And very exciting being in the capital. I wasn't expecting that when I came to Portugal. Now, I think I got some help from a virtual. Yes, I found the place that looked interesting. It was a recommendation, a word of mouth recommendation. The person said to me, well, if you he said, we're living in this golf resort. Sounds a bit random and weird, but we're living in this golf resort. It's south of the river, but the beaches are fantastic. It's a different, less intense way of life. And if you want to get across the water to the heart of Lisbon, you can get the train, you can drive across, and that's exactly what we did. So I found a place on Airbnb and asked my virtual assistant who was working with us at the time if she would talk to the owner to see if they were interested in a longer term let on this property and negotiate a price for us. So that's a nice little tip for you. Getting a Portuguese virtual assistant, and these folks will work. Safari might be interested in doing this actually. If a Portuguese homeowner, Airbnb type person gets a call from a Portuguese native, they will get you a better deal. I think it's fair to say, unless you're a real top negotiator and you can speak Portuguese. I think it's really best left to the virtual assistant. And by virtual assistant, I don't mean like a robot. I mean somebody who's not, a paid employee. They are a hireable assistant by the hour. And this woman, Anna, was fantastic. She phoned up this guy who owned this place and then got us a big discount on the rental and organized a longer term lease for us. And it is in Aroeira, which has 2 golf courses and was built as a golf resort, I think, in possibly the 90s. And it's not quite turned out, I think, as the designers would have hoped, maybe. There are really luxurious homes there. It's a great place to live. It's kind of gated, and you come in, and I don't see myself as someone who lives in gated communities, but that's how it was. You come in through the gate, and there are obviously the golf pro shops and a lovely restaurant, and there was a fish shop, wet fish shop, fishmongers. I don't know what you call in America. Fishmonger, wet fish shop. What else? A music school, I think, for some of the kids that lived there. But beautiful. Some of the, some incredible real estate, some beautiful, uniquely designed homes on this golf course. And then we were in the cheap seats, the cheaper part, in the what do they call it? The condo part, duplex apartments near the golf courses. Well, in fact, our conservatory overlooked the golf courses. Fantastic. And people are very cool and casual in Portugal about golf. If ever I were to wander onto a golf course in England, I'd probably be shot or sternly castigated by golfers there. Portuguese golfers, very easygoing. They kind of let you go through, walk in the dog, walk out with the kids. There were turtles in the ponds, that was part of the golf course. Absolutely lovely. Great big fish in these ponds as well. And you could walk about on the golf course. Thoroughly recommend it. So in the condo part, in the duplex apartments, people were living there. I think they were probably designed to put people up on a timeshare basis or short-term let while people played golf. But as it's turned out, there are a lot of people living there longer term who aren't interested in golf necessarily. They just found a cool place to live. So Aroeira, and you're going to need obviously the spelling of that, which I I can't remember how to spell that. I will do that. I will search that. Golf at Aroeira. Aroeira. So there you go. Aroeira. Golf at Aroeira. I will find I'm going to find you a good link to this. Actually, as good as any, let's go to the TripAdvisor and give you the link to the Aroeira Golf Resort, and I'll pop that in there. And PM me if you want any more details on that. I just thought it was a fantastic place, actually. So and everything, right from it wasn't cheap, but from the duplex condos right up to millions of euro homes, and you got footballers from Benfica staying there and all sorts. Really, it was a charmed life for a little while living there, and I could cycle. The landlord left a bicycle with the apartment, so I could cycle to the railway station and then catch a train on the Fartagus line going from south of the river. Sometimes I get the bus, but we go south to the train station and we get on the train, and it would be on the lower deck of the Abril 25 bridge. The iconic bridge that crosses the river there in Lisbon. You'd be on the lower deck of that on a train. And I would be looking out the window with my fellow commuters, and I would want to scream at them, "Look, we're crossing the river going into Lisbon, everybody. This is fantastic." And they'd all done it like for years. And it was hangdog expressions, just going to work. For me, it was the most incredible thing. It was really good. So there you go, Aroera. The link it is there. It's there in the comments for you, Steve. Hope that helps. More comments. Safara, I do recommend also Aveiro and Viana do Castelo to be added to that list. Absolutely. Thank you, Safara, for that. Can't wait to spend my mornings at a local coffee shop. Community with a mix of expats and locals. Yeah, you're going to get that in Aveiro. You're going to get that in Coimbra. You're going to get that in Lisbon, certainly down in the south, Eric. And I can't wait to have a coffee with you one morning. Hello, hola, bon night, my friend from Charles in North Carolina. How are you doing, Charles? Network right here. Or take a big adventure with the man cave if you dare. Yeah, fellas, well, anybody who's up for the man cave vibe on a Friday night, always happy to share information about our beloved new home here. So, yes, good shout there, Charles. Yeah, network on any of these shows with each other, obviously, or shout out in the comments, and I'll do my best to help you. That's what this is all about. Cheers. Great to see you, Charles. Hola, Carlinho. It's been a lovely 60. Oh, I've seen a lovely 60-hectare property. It is in Porto Alegre. What is the climate like in that area? I want to cool down rather than heat up. I don't know a lot about Porto Alegre. That is in the Alentejo, isn't it? I think that's going to be too hot for you, Eugene, frankly. But I need to check that. Porto Alegre. Yeah, I do think that's the Alentejo. Let's have a quick look. And I'm going to Wikipedia for this. Porto Alegre, municipality in Portugal, and in the Porto Alegre district. So, yes, north, it is its own. No, it is in the Alentejo region, but it is its own district, of course. So Porto Alegre in the Alentejo region, pretty much central. I think inland there, it's going to be kind of too warm for you, Eugene, I'm afraid to say. It sounds like a cool property, though, that's piqued your interest there. Yeah, in all honesty, I think it's going to be a little bit warm for you, and you might need to get nearer the sea to cool down a bit, my friend. Safira, in the summer, temps go higher than that for sure. Absolutely right. So you and me both, Safira, taking issue there. David, good evening to you. David, a bit bowls in with us, everyone, tonight. Howdy, y'all. Andrew Rigney, I haven't seen you for a while, Andrew. How are you? Porto is beautiful. We've just bought a house there and can't wait to retire there. So there you go. Tell Lauren and Andrew, will you please? The other Andrew Rigney. Can you tell them tell them more about what's so wonderful and why they should go to Porto? Jim, does your channel have any info about how to form, who to go to for an LLC, for a trust? If so, can you tell me if you have a link to it? Thanks, Jim. Yes, my first go-to person would be Daniel Reyes, the lawyer we work with, Reyes Pelicano, and I will put that link in the comments for you. If not live on the show, then I'll do it later, or just PM me, my friend. Actually, you're on YouTube there, aren't you? So yeah, just give me a shout, and I'll connect you with Daniel Reyes. I would start with him, and if he doesn't know someone good, he'll find you somebody. Mark, good evening to you, Mark. This is fantastic. The temperatures are monthly averages, so an average of 25 degrees C for the month can have a range. Thank goodness you're here, Mark. I can have a range of daily temperatures for the month of, say, 20 to 30. Okay, so that doesn't factor in, but we want to know what the highs are as well, don't we? So yeah, in Lisbon, certainly touching 40. As you go in parts of central Portugal, way into 40, 45 sometimes in Tamar. But thank you for that, Mark. How are you doing? Settling in nicely. This man, Mark, he's up in the north of Porto, and he's a good fella to talk to about north of Porto, which I think is a good shout. Eugene, you might want to talk to Mark. It's cooler there and might suit you better. And Mark, I think, has found a pretty nice little niche for himself there, which he may or may not want to share with you. He might not want loads of expats going there. Agnostimus is here with a beautiful profile pic. Thanks for this live. It's my pleasure. Got any questions for us, Agnostimus? In Houston, we only have the seafood department in the grocery store. What? Not wet fish or a fishmonger. Okay. Thanks, Carl from Steve. My pleasure. Look forward to talking to you soon, Steve. Mark, try worldweatheronline.com as a great resource for climate issues for even small areas. So there you go, Xander. You might get the answer to your microclimate query on what's that one? worldweatheronline.com. Jim saying, thanks, my pleasure. I went to Lisbon, says Agnostimus, and fell in love with the city. I mean, who doesn't in Lisbon? It's so cool. I went to Porto and fell in love with the city. Should I just settle in Coimbra? Yes, that's not a bad shout, Agnostimus. And this is the thing that me and my wife call San Martino Syndrome. I'm just going to cue this up, the Alentejo, because we'll be talking about the Alentejo and the Algarve before we finish tonight. And that about does it. So we will do the Algarve and the Alentejo and those temperatures and property prices, etc., before we finish tonight. But let me just tell you quickly about San Martino Syndrome. Me and Mrs. M, when we got to this is our journey into Portugal. Arrived coming in through Spain, driving the camper van, coming to Jerez. Oh, this is nice. We could live here, but we're supposed to be going further south to Tamar. Get to Tamar. This is pretty cool. We could live here. Yeah, Tamar. It's Tamar. This is great. Then we got a bit freaked out in Tamar. It was the summer of the fires, so I wanted to get my family to the coast whilst I kind of, although I was glad to be in Portugal, obviously, 2 kids, new home, bit on edge as well. So, the idea of seeing plumes of smoke in the distance, as people did in 2017, I'm going to get my family to the coast. Go to San Martino de Porto. Actually, no, this is it. San Martino de Porto, fantastic. Camper van breaks down there. We end up living there for a few weeks at the expense of our insurance company. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And we're thinking, yes, this is it. And then every place we go after that, actually, no, this is it, isn't it? No, tomorrow we'll go somewhere else. No, this is it. And this is San Martino Syndrome, San Martino de Porto. You find a beautiful place, you think this is it, and the best thing to do then is not go anywhere else, so your head is not turned. But like exactly as Agnostimus says there, fell in love with Lisbon, fell in love with Porto. Should I just split the difference and stay in Coimbra? It's so true. Jim, I'm in Pensacola, Florida. Hi there. Jim, thanks for letting us know where you live. Does Portugal suffer from cyclones? We had 3 hurricanes in a month this summer. Enjoy the heat. Don't like the storms. Do excuse me. I'm going to have actually, before I go, I'm going to tell you what this wine is like from the Dow region. My Pedra Cancela. Just going to see what the nose is like on it. Ooh, classy. I'm getting classy for sure. And I'm not surprised that is a decanter selection for 2019. That's delicious. Hold on. That's something a bit special. Oh, I'm glad to toast Portugal with you before we finish. Cyclones. Well, we're on the Atlantic, and there are some severe weather conditions from time to time. We've had some alerts in the previous weeks, but nothing like I see on the TV like you have there, and not in my memory of being here in 3 years. That's warmed up my taste buds. That's the wine I'm talking about. But yes, severe and strong winds on the Atlantic, and notably, there was one storm that ripped through near south of Aveiro, and devastation, trees blown down and so on. But again, nothing like I see you have in the United States, for example. So yes. I don't even know if they're described as cyclones. I mean, they're high winds, and they can cause devastation, but it's all relative. And I've not seen anything horrific, as I sometimes see from your part of the world there, Jim. So I hope that helps. Safiro, Portugal has started to have some issues with extreme weather during the wintertime. Okay, thanks, Safiro. Affects all the continent, but usually the central areas of Portugal suffer more from strong winds. There you go. And Shonaz, thank you for chat. Always lots of great information. I enjoy your chats. Just signed up for premium to support channel. Thank you so much, Shonaz. Really appreciate that. And I know you've got to go. So yeah, muito obrigado to you, Shonaz, for supporting us. Thank you so much. What kind of miles per hour are the winds? Can't remember off the top of my head. Can you help us out with that, Safiro or Mark? We might have a link for you within the next few minutes. I need to conclude, actually. I don't want to keep you too long. So we've got that outstanding there. We have got the miles or kms per hour of winds when the weather does get extreme here in Portugal. Mark or Safari, if you can help me out with that, be most grateful. Alentejo, look at that, only 7% of the total population, although the largest region of Portugal. Isn't that interesting? Largest region, smallest population density, I would say. World Heritage Sites, natural parks, 140 kilometers of beaches. Major cities are Évora, Porto Alegre, and Beja. Not the best road or rail infrastructure, as you might expect. You know, it's not everyone's not going there all of the time. They don't have the roads for it. But you know, the upside of that, of course, is it makes it very quiet and rural. Property prices are below the national average, and it is that's harsh. Not a great cultural area. Come on. I think that sounds very negative, doesn't it? I mean, I think a different way of putting that, reframing it, is that it's not blessed with loads of cultural infrastructure. You know, you've got to get to Lisbon and Porto for that, to the Algarve to some extent, because the expats will be drumming that up down there in the south. But yeah, okay, sparse in terms of cultural provision because it's a low population density in the Alentejo. But I don't like that particular description of not a great cultural area. In many ways, I mean, if you take into account the history, it's an awesome cultural area. I just think that's more of the, you know, the art scene, classical music, I suspect. And even so, I'm sure there are treats to be had in the Alentejo. Don't rule it out on that basis, is what I'd say. So we are looking at averages here, as Mark pointed out. January, minimum of 5, maximum of 14. August, minimum of 16 and a maximum of 33. So you can see it going up there, and you are into the 40s when it peaks in the Alentejo. Sunny days, look at that. 304 per month. Can't be bad, can it? Algarve, 4% of the total population. That surprises me, but density of expats and tourists down there, obviously, in the Algarve. Stunning beaches, probably some of the best in the world, and warmer. Yes, the Dourada dunes of Dunas de Dourada, beautiful. Chanced upon it down there in the south. Some of the best in the world, and warmer sea temperatures than anywhere elsewhere in Portugal. So unless you're a Wim Hof kind of person, that's where you want to be. Also, some of the best golf courses in the world. The Jack Nicklaus design there, of course. The major city is Faro. Good road and rail infrastructure, and many European destinations served by Faro Airport. And when you arrive at Faro Airport, it's like, yay, I'm on holiday. The vibe down there is great. Property prices are higher than average, as is the cost of living, pushed up by the tourism and the expats, of course. Probably the least authentic region of Portugal. So again, sounding good. I think this is written by a Portuguese person, because that's quite a stern. Let's call that multicultural, shall we? So yes, we can say that the traditional Portuguese flavors there are complemented by those of other cultures. That would be my reframe on that one. Can be very touristy and not much culture. Depends what you mean by culture. But yes, of course, can be very touristy in the Algarve. That's what it's all about. But actually, I know there will be people, friends of mine in the Algarve, are saying, Tosh, you can get away from the tourists. It's a big part of the country, and you can get away from the tourists, and you can. So if you go to the, you know, notoriously touristy areas, of course, there will be lots of tourists there, but you can get away from that in the Algarve. It has to be said, and I will say it, and I am. January, minimum of 7 degrees and a maximum of 16. August, minimum of 18 and maximum of 29. Not as intense in the heat, I think, as the Alentejo and even, you know, Tamar and Castelo Branco. But, you know, you're getting that all-round Mediterranean sort of vibe down there, aren't you? 336 sunny days. For those of you who love the sun and want to spend your time cooling down rather than warming up, the Algarve is for you with its beautiful sunny skies and sunny days. 336 of them. So there you go. You can go back to that. Now, expatsportugal.com, where to live in Portugal, in our news and articles. We also have a business directory here. Actually, let me just find for you the legal one for the, was it Jim who wanted the, there you go, Raisin Pelicano. That is in our business directory under lawyers and legal. I will put the link for that in there now for you, Jim. Forgive me if it wasn't you, Jim, asking, but start with Daniel Reyes. Tell him who sent you. If you become a premier member of expatsportugal.com, as it's suggesting you become at the bottom there, and as Shanaz kindly did tonight, you will get discounts for just a rather meager 25 euros. Let's face it, you get a bunch of discounts, including discounts on the services of Daniel Reyes there at Reyes and Pelicano. Let me just pop that in the link to that part of our directory. So that's going in there now, and that was Jim. Fallen trees and some rooftops rip off. Hail also depends. The top registered winds around were 120 kilometers. Okay, kilometers per hour, folks. Remember that, not miles per hour. Jim, loving the info. Yeah, there's more for you there. Daniel Reyes and Pelicano, and Xander continuing here. I'm familiar with the fires. Is there an area that has a problem with flooding? Yeah, we get heavy downpours, so I don't think it's an area specific thing. I think, Xander, it's more of a a place where they get caught off guard by a flash flood. So I wouldn't say there is a notorious part of Portugal for flooding, but flooding definitely does happen here. You get that on the news. Somewhere will have been caught short, and maybe not managed its flood program, flood resistance and flood management program, and you do see it. But I'm not aware of like a notorious area that is, like, due to global warming or whatever, is becoming more flooded. So others may know otherwise, but that doesn't ring any bells for me. So yes, flooding happens, but I don't know anywhere that's like specifically associated with that. 125 plus mile per hour winds there in Florida. Yeah. It's a good reason to move, Jim. Thanks, Safari from Jim. Sintra's here, watching from New England. Awesome info. As always, keep the good stuff on. I will do my best, Sintra. I really will. I mean, if I could sit here and drink red wine with you, why wouldn't I? Let's have another sip of that. It's a good one. I mean, if you can get, I don't know how easy it is. It varies from state to state in the United States, doesn't it? But that's a good recommendation, I would say. I'm not just trying to get these guys to send me another crate of this stuff, although that wouldn't go amiss. Pedra Cancela, a Dao wine, D-A-O. Like I said, I'm a Taoist this evening. That's going down really well. Safira, some tornadoes or cyclones, but so far in these extreme conditions, only property damage, although a couple of deaths did occur from fallen trees. And this does happen, sadly, doesn't it? People getting caught like that. But yes, we have it, but not in the extreme, I guess, is a summary of that. Thank you, Safira. I really appreciate your input tonight. I remember Odemira in 1996. Quiet, nice beaches. Yeah, Odemira, well worth a look. Thank you for that on YouTube from Isa Chest. A train enthusiast am I looking at there? And I was near the railway station at Coimbra in my part of Portugal, and I saw the Alpha Pendula. Even a man of my age likes to see a fast train. I'm more excited than my kids when I see the Alpha Pendula trains rocketing through the local stations here in this part of Portugal. 15th of October, 2018, it's a record. A gust of wind measured at 176 kilometers per hour, folks, was recorded at Figueira da Foz on Saturday night. That was it. Hurricane Leslie. That's the one that caused the devastation south of Aveiro. Couldn't remember the name. Even where I was in central Portugal that night, we were battening down the hatches. So, wow, yeah, two years ago, a Hurricane Leslie swept over the Portuguese coastline, heading inward towards northern Spain. Yeah, that was a night to remember. We recorded a podcast, actually, about that, battening down for Hurricane Leslie. Amazing. And thank you for that. So 176 is the record. That gust, what a wonderful word that is, gust. 15th of October, 2018. Cheers, Mark, for that. Good man. 176, and he's even done the translation. He's done the translation here. 176, that's 109. So I'm thinking you Floridians will laugh at that mere 109 miles per hour. Can't wait to visit, says Sherry. Be sure to give me a shout, Sherry, Sagresh or coffee, whatever. We can share. It was me, says Jim. Yes, Jim. Okay, so we got you there. A gust is not the same as sustained winds that can be experienced in parts of the US. Absolutely. It's the difference between a gust and a cyclone there. Jim's got the information we've sent. Fantastic. Thanks, Carl and Safira. Another great show. See you tomorrow. Cheers, Eric. Good night to you. Bon noite, Safira. When it comes to flooding houses near rivers in particular, Porto Aveiro, Lisbon. Okay. And that's info for... Yes, no problem. Cheers to Eric from Safari. Not allowed to drink wine unless you have enough for the whole class. Are you a teacher, Jim? Sounds like it, doesn't it? What are you eating, Munson? Share. You get busted eating a packet of sweets. You've got to share them with the whole class. If I could share this bottle of wine with you, I would. But we haven't got an app for that yet. If you've lived in North America with hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods and 6 foot of snow, you will do just fine in Portugal. That's an excellent summation, Charles, of anyone concerned about Portuguese weather. He's nailed it. He's absolutely nailed it there. Thanks, Charles. Hurricane Leslie sounds like a mad mother-in-law. Yes, yes. She does. Although, is that the male spelling of Leslie there? E-Y and I-E, I can never remember. But you're right. You're right. And I imagine people do get a lot of stick each time a new name is given to a weather system or, a hurricane, whatever that comes through. And I'm sure that comes at a lot of people's cost. You've been excellent tonight, everybody. I'm a little bit over time tonight, but it's been my pleasure to hang out with you. I drink Portuguese coffee, drink Portuguese wine. What's not to like about that? So it's been great to do this Portugal show with you here at 10 o'clock Lisbon time, 10 p.m. most evenings. And I note now that I am now under curfew, everybody, not just me personally, but my municipality here in this part of Portugal, one of 191 at the moment, where the government is taking and doing its best and taking the measures to put this virus or kick it into touch, basically. So that's where we're at right now in this part of Portugal. And I'll bid you good evening, but I won't go without reading all the comments. I only recall snowing once in Matosinhos. This is where he lives. And it was way back in 1985. Wow. Okay. So it doesn't snow there very often, north of Porto there, in that lovely part of Porto. It's the industrial part, isn't it? And beach part and fishing part of Porto. Stand to be corrected if that's not an accurate depiction of your hometown there, Safiro. Thanks all. I learn something new every time I drop by. That's the idea, Jim. So glad to hear it. Every day a school day, every night a school night here on the Good Morning Portugal show and the Portugal show. We'll see you in the morning. Take very great care. Thanks for all your contributions and thanks for your excellent attention tonight. Accurate is the final word from Safiro of my description of Matosinhos. Take care, everybody. Boa noite. Abraços, beijinhos. Ciao, ciao. Até a próxima. Até amanhã.